Good morning and welcome to Radio Nigeria Breakfast Show on Coal City 929 FM, Enugu. I am your host, Ekene Adibe. Education remains one of the strongest tools for empowerment, independence, and social development. However, education can only achieve its purpose when every learner, including persons living with disabilities, has equal opportunity to participate, learn, and succeed. Today, we're discussing a very important issue: inclusive classrooms, equipping teachers for learners with disabilities. Across our communities, many children and young persons with disabilities continue to face challenges in accessing quality education. Some of these challenges include inaccessible school facilities, inadequate learning materials, limited teacher training, stigma, and discrimination. The important questions are our teachers adequately prepared to support learners with different disabilities? What practical steps can schools, government, parents, and communities take on to create classrooms where every learner feels included? To discuss this issue, we are joined by two advocates who've continued to promote disability inclusion. We welcome Comrade Onyebuchi Mba, Chairman of the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, JONAPWD, Enugu State, and member of the Enugu State Persons with Disabilities Commission. Also joining us is Comrade Chinedu Adibe, Public Relations Officer of JONAPWD, Enugu State. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Comrade Onyebuchi, let me begin with you. When we talk about inclusive classrooms, what exactly do we mean? Is it simply about admitting children with disabilities into schools, or does it go beyond that?
Inclusive classroom goes beyond a mere admission of children with disabilities into schools. It simply means ensuring equal participation that guarantees meaningful learning processes, both on the side of children without disability and those with one form of disability or the other. It is a system or process, a practice that ensures equal participation, that allows a child without any form of disability sitting side by side with that child with one form of disability or the other to learn on an equal basis. The other child may be using biro, while that child with visual impairment will be using other tools that enables a child with visual impairments to learn, such as stylus, Perkins Braille machine, or recording device for such a child to take notes of the learning processes in the class. And when it is a child with hearing impairment, such a child also enjoys equal opportunity of learning by the presence of sign language interpreter in the classroom. So that is simply the meaning of inclusive classroom. Away from learning processes, inclusive classroom also can be taken from the angle of the physical barriers that may limit the opportunity of that child on wheelchair, that may limit the opportunities of that child on crutches from entering the classroom block or environment. That is to say that in order to ensure inclusive learning process, in and around classroom environment must be accessible, not only being accessible, but accessible for all and seen to be accessible indeed, both the inside and the outside, all around the school environment, in such a manner that the entrance will contain RAM, the exit RAM, and vice versa, all around the school environment. In this way, inclusive classroom can be guaranteed.
From your explanation, inclusion is about ensuring meaningful participation and learning. Wonderful. But what are some of the major barriers children with disabilities face in accessing education in Enugu State and Nigeria generally?
The barriers that children with disabilities face in Enugu State and in Nigeria as a whole, like I had said earlier, remains on the side of inaccessible school environment, inaccessible classroom entrance. That is when I mean inaccessible, it means that a child on wheelchair cannot enjoy coming in or going out within the school environment. And when the child enters the classroom, in most cases, there are staircases all over without the provision of ramp for someone or a child on wheelchair, or those who make use of crutches. And for those of them who are visually impaired, who can actually climb staircases, or those who are hearing impaired, in most cases, and what we see, there are no braille materials, there are no recording devices, there are no sign language interpreters for the deaf. Remember, the braille materials are meant for those with visual impairment, while the sign language interpreters are for the deaf. So, in every classroom or school premises where there are no sign language interpreters, learning becomes difficult for a child with hearing impairment. And when it is a child with visual impairment, without braille education, braille materials, without recording devices, audio provisions that could enable such a child to learn on the same pace with others without disability, the learning becomes difficult for such a child. So, yes, we can give it to those of them who are on wheelchair, who are on crutches. That also tells you that disabilities differs. While the other person may have its own peculiarity, another may be crying for something else as it affects him or her. Those with skin issues, that is, persons with albinism, also in most cases, the classroom arrangement can also affect them in such a manner that they cannot see clearly what is written on the board. So it is also expected that while designing classroom inclusive activities, you make it in such a manner that our colleagues with skin issues, persons with albinism, are given the front seat to enable them view clearly what is written on the board. So we can go on and on and on, enumerating and analyzing the learning issues affecting persons with disabilities in a different manner. What affects disability A may not be what affects disability B. And that is the peculiarities attached to any cluster or individuals with disability.
All right, Comrade Adibe. Some people still believe disability inclusion is only the responsibility of persons with disabilities and their families. What should the entire society be concerned about creating inclusive classrooms?
When we talk about an inclusive classroom, we are not talking about a favor for persons with disability alone. We are talking about the foundation for a just society, because disability could happen to anyone at any time. Today is my turn, tomorrow it could be yours. So when we create a classroom that works for some children, we are building a society that will leave so many children behind. An inclusive environment teaches every child an important value: patience, confidence, teamwork. A child with disability learns confidence and gets the opportunity to contribute his or her talents, while a child without disability learns to cooperate and work with children that are different from them. When you exclude a child with disability, you are losing doctors, professional talents. The society should know that an inclusive education is never charity. It builds hope. It builds confidence. It builds a stronger community. It builds the economy. A school that works for the most vulnerable can work for every child. Thank you.
There are cases where parents hide children with disabilities because of stigma or fear. How does this affect the child's development and future opportunities?
When parents hide children with disability at home, the first persons who suffer this is the child, because early childhood is the best time for learning. When a child is hidden away all these years, he misses school, he misses playing with other children, he misses the opportunity of communicating or cooperating with other children. This child suffers this for life. Beyond education, This child gets to start asking himself, understanding and believing there is something shameful about himself. The self-esteem begins to drop. They grow up believing that they can never make it in life. It gets even worse in the future because a child without education will struggle to survive or to live independently or even contribute to the society. We are busy wasting talents. The parents suffer in silence instead of getting support from the community. This is unfair. But the good news is that this can change if we can let our children with disability go to school. They will excel. You will see talent in them. You will see creativity. You will see the ability. That potential you never believed they had. You will see it in them. So I appeal to all parents. Do not hide your child or children with disability at home. Don't hide them. Give them the chance. Bring them out. The community and the school are willing to work with them.
Teachers are at the heart of every classroom. A teacher may have learners with hearing impairment, visual impairment, physical impairment, physical disabilities, or learning difficulties all in one classroom. Comrade Mba, what knowledge, skills, and attitudes should teachers develop to effectively support learners with disabilities?
Yes, teachers should develop a positive mindset towards learners with disabilities. Have that knowledge, have that skill, have that attitude that are encouraging, that are inspiring to a child with disability. A child with a disability that do not interact inspirationally is bound to return home worse than entering the classroom, because the powers of what the teacher say, how the teacher carry him or her along in the classroom determine a whole lot to that child's learning abilities. The teacher in a classroom should be versatile, should be trained in such a manner that a teacher can be an English language teacher, knows how to sign for the deaf children, knows how to make use of braille materials, understands the specialities attached with any child in the classroom. There are those who learn on a speed rate, while there are others who learn in a low rate. The intellectual disabled children are also all over in our school environments, in the classroom. Teachers should also know that this set of persons exist, that they require encouragement, that they are just like every other children, that something good could come out of them, irrespective of the so-called disabilities that they carry. So, teachers should dwell more on the positive side, helping to mold children with disabilities in a manner that they will not only become useful to themselves, but to their families and to the larger society.
Comrade Adibe, what simple practical steps can teachers take immediately, even where resources are limited, to make their classrooms more inclusive?
Actually, it does not really cost much or require big money for teachers to start making their classrooms inclusive. Inclusion starts with just simple attitudes and actions. First of all, that child with disability around you in your classroom, make him comfortable with staying around you in the classroom. Most children with disability, especially those with visual impairment or hearing impairment or albinism, will always want to sit at the front for them to feel comfortable, jotting down notes, recording their teachers, and even understanding lectures. You have to teach in different ways. When a child with visual impairment is not understanding your teachings, you describe in a way he or she will understand. Use simple sign language that the deaf will understand. Be flexible with time. Most students with disability requires extra time for them to answer questions or jot down notes. And you must always learn as a teacher to speak with respect. Talk to them with respect. Call them by their name. Don't call them by their disability. Hey, the blind student or the deaf students. No, call them by their name. Chukwebuka, Emeka, and what have you. Encourage other students to help them, to stay around them. Give them that confidence they want from you. Always learn to ask the parents, because most parents know their children best. Ask them, what help do your child need to learn? What triggers your child? This will help you to know how to manage and cope with a child. This simple step do not really mean much, but it helps a lot in helping a child with disability cope in school, because an inclusive teacher is that teacher who believes so much that every child can learn. And when a teacher believes that every child can learn, the children in the classroom believe same.
All right, if you're just joining us, this is Breakfast Show on Coal City 929 FM, Radio Nigeria, Enugu. And we're talking about inclusive classrooms equipping teachers for learners with disabilities. Our guests, Comrade Onyebuchi Mba, Chairman, Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, JONAPWD, Enugu State, and member, Enugu State Persons with Disabilities Commission. Also in the studio, we have Comrade Chinedu Adibe, Public Relations Officer, Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, Enugu State. And remember, you can join the conversation online on coalcityfm929.net.ng. Now, one major concern is access. One major concern is access to appropriate learning materials. Comrade Mba, how important are resources such as Braille materials, sign language interpretation, assistive devices, and other learning supports for persons or students with disabilities?
The importance of Braille materials, sign language interpreters, and other technological devices that could support individuals with disabilities in their learning processes cannot be overemphasized. That is the blood of their education, the blood of their learning, the blood of their empowerment. Without it, they remain disabled. Without it, their disabilities conquer them. And that is more reason why in every classroom, from our primary to our tertiary education, Braille materials should not be found missing in our school system. Sign language interpreters should be employed. Technological devices should be integrated into our school curriculum so as to make it easier for learners with disabilities. Magnifying glasses should be provided for persons with albinism. Remember, when we say there are children with visual impairment who cannot see at all, persons with albinism can see but cannot see afar. The classroom arrangement can encourage or discourage them from learning effectively. So, they are too numerous to mention the importance of Braille materials in our school, sign language interpreters, and other technological devices that could help support individuals with disabilities. Remember that across Enugu State at the moment, in our Smart School Innovative Project, wonderful idea introduced by the current administration, we are still looking up to see to ensure that while there are smart schools everywhere, we will also have Braille education, Braille materials, sign language interpreters employed, and our teachers trained on that line also. Because if I am to be a child now as a blind man, taken back to the classroom with others, the sighted ones seated together, for me to learn, I can only learn by the use of Braille materials, by the use of tape recorders, let me simplify it, recording devices, and other technological aids that could enable me be on the same page with those with sight. If it's a child with deafness, such a child can enjoy learning if the teacher teaching them understands and knows what is sign language. And when that teacher at the same time teaching, that teacher is also signing, demonstrating what he or her is teaching. And by so doing, the classroom will be all-inclusive. And when it is a child on the intellectual disability issue, such a teacher will also have the knowledge, the skills on how best to accommodate such a child in spite of his or her learning difficulties.
Comrade Adibe, another challenge is the physical accessibility of schools. Many classrooms and school facilities are not designed with all learners in mind. What should schools do to ensure their environments are accessible to learners with disabilities.
Thank you. Physical accessibility is all about removing barriers for learners to enter, learn, and to move around safely. It's very important to understand this. In an inclusive environment, there are basic things that should be put in place for persons with disability to be able to move around the institution, access their classrooms, and attend lectures. Schools like this should be able to provide ramps for those on wheelchairs to navigate classrooms and others. There should be handrails for those on crutches to be able to go around their classrooms, and as well those with visual impairments. Drainages should be closed so that no visual impaired could jump into it and get injured. Classrooms as well should also be known and should also be spaced for people with disability on wheelchairs to be able to move around the classrooms smoothly. It's very important that we should also understand that people with disability, especially the visually impaired ones, will require some supporting devices like accessibility devices that will help their education, things like Braille and other materials that support and promote their educations. While considering all of that, we should also know that in school where we have people with disability, there should be a special toilet facility that any one of them can access smoothly. Inclusion, I know, is not easy to have all these things put in place in one day, but gradual process, we can be putting all of those things one after the other to be able to carry all the students along. When planning for persons with disability or students with disability, you are also planning for that teacher who is pregnant or that elderly person who comes to visit the school, or even a child with a broken leg in school. Accessibility helps everyone. It works for everyone, not just for persons with disability. So the schools should learn to plan this at the beginning, not as an afterthought.
Comrade Mba, Nigeria has laws supporting the rights of persons with disabilities. What specific interventions would you like the government at state and local government levels to prioritize to improve inclusive education?
The specific intervention I would like the local government, the state, and the federal government to prioritize in order to ensure inclusive education is that there should be a policy for free education of every child with disability from primary to tertiary level. That should be a bold step and a factor that will encourage them to come out first. And then, while doing this, I would also like the government to intervene specifically on the side of our teachers to train and retrain. Teachers of today should understand what is Braille materials. Teachers of today should understand what is sign language interpretation. Teachers of today should be able to understand when we say disability inclusion, what it is all about. They should be meant to understand the disability language, that there are some words and phrases that do not speak to the dignity of a child with disability and mustn't be used in our education sector. Again, I would also like the state and the federal government to also declare automatic employment for any man or woman with disability that manages to scale through the hurdles of disability and becoming a graduate. That will also be another factor to encourage them. That will also serve as an incentive to pull out those of them who are still down the ladder, thinking of their survival. So, automatic employment for every individual with disability that were able to come up as a graduate at the end of the day, so as to also take them off the street, off the line of begging, encouraging them to believe in themselves. They also have problems to solve, just like every other human beings. So by the way of granting automatic employment to them, just like I had earlier stated, granting scholarship from the primary through the secondary to the university level. And by the time of their graduating, they are also ensured that employment is coming their way. That will go a long way in ensuring that they will not only read or study, but they will be serious and be committed, knowing that their future is at stake.
Comrade Adibe, beyond government, what role should parents, communities, traditional institutions, and religious organizations play in supporting inclusive education?
Inclusion is not just the responsibility of the government. Although the government have a major role to play on this, but all hands should be on deck for it to work. The community needs to be involved, the parents need to be involved, the traditional institution needs to be involved, the religious organization needs to be involved. As a matter of fact, the parents are the first teacher. They need to first of all believe in the child, send them to school, and work with their teachers. Stop hiding them at home. The community needs to change their mindset. The community needs to stop the stigma, the name calling. The community should learn how to celebrate the achievement of persons with disability and make the community, the environment very accessible and welcoming for them. The traditional institution, the kings, the chiefs, they have a strong voice and people listen to them. During their town hall meeting, during their festival, they should be able to preach about inclusion and to make policy that works for persons with disability. Policies that favors persons with disability. Traditional rulers, religious organizations, churches are a place of compassion. They should be able to use their platform to preach inclusion, to sensitize the members, to encourage these children, to empower them. If we all play our part in this inclusion of persons with disability, we are sending one message: that every child belongs, that every child can learn, that every child has a future. Inclusive education is for all of us, and we must make it work. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Onyebuchi Mba, Chairman of JONAPWD, Enugu State, and member of the Enugu State Persons with Disabilities Commission, and Comrade Chinedu Adibe, Public Relations Officer of JONAPWD, Enugu State, for joining us today. Dear listener, inclusive education is not just about allowing children with disabilities into classrooms. It is about creating an environment where every learner is respected, supported, and given the opportunity to reach their full potential. When we equip teachers, improve learning environments, and challenge discrimination, we build a society where everyone can contribute. All right? Thank you for listening. Stay informed, stay involved, and join us same time next time for another important conversation. This has been Breakfast Show on Coal City 929 FM, Radio Nigeria, Enugu. Producers has been Jude Obu and Chioma Obiakwe. Supervisor is the General Manager, Coal City FM, Enugu, Kate Nebo. Zonal Supervisor is the Deputy Director Programs, FRCN, Enugu Zonal Station, Joy Obitilata. Executive Producer is the Zonal Director, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Enugu Zonal Station, Dr. Ikechukweze. And my name is Ekene Odigwe. Thanking you for listening. Good morning.